Action.
Tov. Everybody's sitting, everybody's listening? Okay, Tov. So, in the next parak of Kav Hayashar, he speaks over here, he gets a little bit Kabbalistic, and he gets a little bit deep on a certain topic. He says over here, he speaks about, this happens to be the next chapter that we're in, he speaks about a certain particular sin, the sin of immorality, that people wasting seed, that's what he's speaking about in this chapter. So he says, he brings a tefillah from David HaMelech, that David HaMelech says, that David HaMelech asks Hashem in order to help him watch his eyes, in order to help him keep his eyes holy, that Hashem should protect him from not looking at things that are asur, like women, for example. Looking at a lady and thinking, it's a doraita, right? And if the lady is married, it's even worse, right? But if a person, right, looks at ladies or looks at things that he's not supposed to be looking at, he's over an isser, and it contaminates a person's mind, and then it contaminates a person's soul. And every time a person looks at a lady that he's not supposed to look at, which is pretty much everybody except his wife. Yes.
They had wives, concubines, 2-3 wives.
Yeah. So get 2-3 wives. That's one thing. If a person has 2-3 wives, they all belong to him. You can look at all of them. This is already a shaila you have to ask your Rav on a personal level if you want a concubine. But I'm just saying that you can't look at women that don't belong to you. Your wife is your wife. You can look at your wife as much as you want. But if a lady that's not your wife, it's an issur d'oraita to look at her. The Gemara says even to look at her finger and to enjoy from it, it's asur. You can't enjoy looking at somebody that's asur to you. I can tell you to such an extent, the Ben Ish Chai says that he brings the story, I think, in Parashat Va'etchanan in the Ben Ish Chai. I haven't saw it in a while. If I remember correctly, I might make a mistake, but I think I'm pretty accurate in the story. It says that David HaMelech, he was supposed to get married to Shaul's daughter, and at the end, Shaul gave her to somebody, I think, called Palti ben Laish. If I remember correctly, I might be getting the name wrong. I think he gave it to, so Shaul gave over his daughter to somebody called Palti ben Laish, and this Palti ben Laish realized that David HaMelech was really the one that was supposed to be married to her. So what did he do? He didn't do anything with her all the years that he was married to her. He put a sword in between their beds, and he said, Palti ben Laish, yeah. And he said, both of us, no touching, you don't belong to me. They lived with her like that. And it says that there was, later on in history, there was somebody called Matya ben Charash. Matya ben Charash was a very big Talmid Chacham. He was a giant in Torah. He was very, very holy. They say it was like Kodesh Kodeshim. And one day he was sitting and he was learning. And he saw at the image of his eyes, there was a lady walking around him. And he was scared that he was going to be poking his eyes. He was scared he was going to ruin his Kiddushan by looking at somebody that's asur to him, right? Which is a severe avera for a person to look at a woman that's asur to him. So what did he do? He did something very extreme, something that very unusual, not a common thing. It's not written in the Shulchan Aruch that you have to do that, right? But he did it. He took 2 nails and he blinded himself. And what did he say? He said, I would rather be blind than look at a woman that's asur to me. He didn't want to ruin his Kiddushan, he didn't want the Averah, and he was scared that the Yetzer Hara is going to get to him.
My opinion is for a person not to look.
Listen to the end of the story.
Yeah, so what happens is that afterwards the Malach came, he healed him, he was healed afterwards, the Malach Raphael came to heal him. But the Ben Ish Chai says, how could it be that such a big tzaddik, something like this could have happened to him? He says, really, Matya ben Charash was a Gilgul of Palti ben Laish. Since Palti ben Laish lived with David HaMelech's wife, so-called, even though he never touched her, but he looked at her. The enjoyment that he had to look at her, he had to come back in a Gilgul as Matya ben Charash, and the tikkun was to take those nails and to blind himself. And that was the tikkun for the bagam that he made on his einayim. Can you imagine that? He just looked at one lady that he was suffix married to, and he had hana'ah from her. Right? So you see, it's a severe sin. The Ben Ish Chai says that the highest level of Gan Eden is correspondent to a person's eyes. The Baba Sali's family, how were they all so holy? Because the Shmirat Einayim, when a person watches his eyes, it brings a tremendous Kiddush and Tara upon a person. It sanctifies the person's mind. The person thinks differently. When the person's eyes are contaminated, he also sees things the same way. Besides the fact that it's also usher, legamre, to look at people that you're not, to look at women you're not supposed to look at. And that's what David HaMelech was saying. David HaMelech says, Ha'aver einay mir'ot shav. Please Hashem, help me remove my eyes from looking at things which are shav. Shav is like valueless, empty, but also shav is gematria shin zayin, which is shichvat zera. They were scared that by looking at woman, he is going to come to spill seed accidentally, right? And Mela, all that seed that's going to be spilled creates demons. All the seed that a person spills, right? It doesn't make a difference accidentally or purposely. They create different types of demons and different types of negative energies, right? To tell you to such an extent that the Arizal brings that Mitzrayim, that all the koach of Mitzrayim, all the koach of the Egyptians was from this. Was from the seed that was spilled by Adam Rishon accidentally when he split from his wife for 130 years. He had accidentally seed spilled from him. All those demons that were created were, and not only that, it says that most of a person suffering in life, it's brought down, is from this Averan, because all these kochot HaTumah, all this Ruach Ra, they surround a person. And they create like a barrier between him and God. It says even when Shefa, even when something wants to come down good from Shemayim, these bad spirits, they come and they take away his Kiddushah, they come and they take away the Shefa from this individual. The Rav Nachman says most of a person's sorrows, most of a person's suffering in life is from this sin. Right? It's from this sin. And one of the reasons also why when somebody's father passes away, the children are not allowed to go after the car to the cemetery. It's brought down like that in the halachah. The Magen Avraham, I think, brings it down. Also, it's brought down like that at Pi Kabbalah. Nobody ever said this?
No, I heard that in the cemetery you don't have to be closer to when they bury it.
When they go to the cemetery, the children are not allowed to drive the same way as the car, as the bed to the cemetery. They have to go a different way. Why?
They cannot bury him also.
Why? It says because if the children are going to go, then all the other children that the father made during his lifetime, with the avirot that he made by spilling seed, all those negative energies are also going to go and start attacking this individual on the way there. So therefore, in Mela, they say the children don't go because it's going to generate.
Just the boys or girls also?
Just the boys. Just the boys don't go.
It doesn't matter father and mother?
By father.
Only father.
Only father.
Father because it's seminal.
Mother doesn't have this. The father has this sin.
No any rabbi says it is in the funeral. No one.
No, it's
Maybe. I remember once I was at a funeral and the rabbi announced it.
Well, no, but you go to the office first, by the way.
The office first, right?
You don't follow the...
That David HaMelech was asking that Hashem should save him from the sin. Why? He says that when a person has this sin, his neshama, he takes his neshama and he connects it to the tumah, he connects it to the sitra achra. A person feels very disconnected from spirituality due to the sin. This avirah is a very severe avirah. And not only that, the Zohar says that when a person has this avirah, he doesn't feel anything. Sometimes, people don't feel anything. They don't feel Shabbat, they don't feel Kiddushah, they don't feel Tefillah, they don't feel Torah, they don't enjoy anything spiritual. It comes as a result of this avirah that it weakens, it sort of empties the person from all of his spirituality. It takes the presence in the Shema and it subjugates it to the Sitra Achra. And therefore David HaMelech was so careful that he was davening to Hashem that his eyes shouldn't even see things that he's not allowed to look at. He should have siyata d'shmaya not to look.
He saw Bathsheba,
Yes, he saw Bathsheba.
How he sees Bathsheba?
So over there is a sugya. The Malbim over there writes that David HaMelech, he was really at fault. He was really at fault. Why? Because everybody went to war. And David HaMelech was home, and it says over there that you see that when a person is bored, it brings a person to sin. Then he went onto the roof, he was relaxing, and he saw something that he shouldn't have seen. He saw it, and that's where it all...
I heard this Hashem did it in purpose.
That's true, the Zohar says that was really his evil.
because they said Chadesh Yemenu Kedem, it's Kav Kuf Dalet Mem, it's Cain, David HaMelech, and Menashe, that Hashem forgive them.
Yeah, but the David HaMelech with Bathsheba is a whole sugi in of itself. It's not a simple. It's a whole topic in of itself. But the Maaseh, he looked and he saw. If he would have, been, if he would have went to war, not have. But whatever the case might be, David HaMelech was davening that he should not fail in his eyes. And Rizal says that every single person on his face has written every single avirah that he did. Every single avirah that he did, on his face he has the written. Now today we don't have people that know these type of things.
But today it's very difficult to do this kind of thing. You go anywhere, you see this, especially in summertime. It's impossible.
Don't go to this place.
It's possible.
What do you mean? It's all over.
Yeah, you can walk in the street.
Halakha is you don't have to not look. You walk around like a normal person. If you see, you don't stare and you don't turn around again. That's the problem. The problem is if you know it's there, you could look this way and you look that way. That's the problem. The Gemara in Aaron says that if a person has two ways now in front of him, he has one way to go, he needs to get somewhere. One way he goes is shorter, but there's ladies over there. How ladies? Ladies doing laundry. They only pick up their sleeves, the Gemara said. They were modest. They only had to pick up their sleeves to do laundry. Right? And the other way, there's no ladies, but it was longer. It says if he goes to the shorter way where there's ladies doing laundry just to pick up their sleeves, it's considered Rasha. That's the Gemara said.
That's the men's nature, Rabbi.
So what, men's nature? So if there's men's nature, you have to go with it, you go against it. You break your nature. Right? So what's the point? The point being is that you have to avoid being pogim yinayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu give you a wife, that's it, look at your wife. You don't need to look at anybody else. What do you need to look at other women for? They don't belong to you, don't look at them.
No, sometimes you want to look at them and appreciate your wife more.
Rabbi Michoel, sit down.
There are other ways to learn to appreciate your wife. You don't need to look at other women. I'm sure if you ask your wife, can I look at other ladies so I can appreciate you more? I don't think she'll agree. Right? So what happens is one time the Arizal saw Rav Chaim Vital, he saw that on his forehead there is a certain letter that's messed up, the letter Gimel. So the Arizal told him, I see that you have a certain Avirah. Rav Chaim Vital got scared. He said, what? He said, you're not doing enough Giminut Chasidim with your father. You're not doing enough Chesed with your father. Right? So you see that on a person's head, every mitzvah and every Avirah that's written down is already written on a person's head. And he says over here that when a person lives like that, the Malachim, they see everything that a person does, especially after 120 when a person goes up to Shemaim. If he comes with all those Avirot, it's very severe. Now I don't want to continue, it's very long over here, but the point being is that David HaMelech was praying that he shouldn't falter in the sin of watching your eyes, and it's a very severe Avirah. It's not a minor Avirah, especially now the summertime is coming. The Ma'am Loez writes, one of the reasons why we learn Pirkei Avot from Pesach until Shavuot, or for Ashkenazim from Pesach I think until Sukkot, the whole entire summer. Why? Is because this is the time where it starts to get spring, it starts to get nice, and everybody starts to go outside, so we immediately start to learn Pirkei Avot in order to infuse ourselves with Musar, to give us that chizuk to know, to be able to live like a holy Jew throughout the summertime. Now, just because it's human nature to do certain things doesn't mean that we have to go with human nature. We have to go with the Shulchan Aruch, with the Ratzon Hashem. When a person, by the way, should know, the Gemara says, on the thought that he mentioned, the Gemara says, why was it that the generations, the Gemara says, how come, the Gemara Barachot says, how come in the generation that they were living in, that Chacham was living in, it says they knew so much Torah, they had so many Mishnayot, they had so much Torah, so many Talmidei Chachamim. It says that they daven, Hashem doesn't answer them. It says the generations before, they didn't know so much Torah. They didn't have as much Torah. But while the Chachamim, even if they would just take off their shoe to daven to Hashem, already Hashem will listen to them, bring down the rain and do everything for them. The Gemara says, you know why? It says because before their Avodat Hashem, they went against their nature. They had Mesirat Nefesh. They served Hashem in Mesirat Nefesh. They went against their nature. It says in our generation, it says, people just go with things, People would go with things. The Ben Ish Chai says, if a person wants Hashem to behave with him above nature, if a person wants to have Siyata Dishmaya and he wants Hashem to make miracles from above nature, he needs to serve Hashem above nature also. If a person only serves Hashem within the nature of himself, then he'll also have that type of hashgacha. But if a person wants to merit, to see miracles, a person wants to merit that Hashem should get involved with him in his life above nature, above odds, a person himself has to break his nature and go above and beyond for Hashem as well. Mida keneged mida. Alright, therefore, Memela, watching a person's eyes is a difficult thing. It's not easy, but a person should do it. Rav Chaim Kanievsky says that a person that watches his eyes and he keeps his eyes holy, he'll have siyata d'shmai in chinuch iladim. He'll have a lot of siyata d'shmai in raising his children properly, which everybody understands. This is something that everybody needs today, right? To raise children is already a different reality. You bring your kid into the world, the whole world is exploded in front of him. You don't know what's going to be tomorrow, right? But lemaaseh siyata d'shmai fi chinuch iladim he brings is to have shmirat ha'inayim. Now we'll go back to a little bit halacha. So what we spoke about last time. Just before we get to the halakha of the topics that I wanted to discuss, I just wanted to mention, a lot of people don't know that when you get a haircut, there's a minimal amount that you're allowed to cut there's a minimal that you're allowed to cut your hair. So people, they go to the barber and they shave over here very, very low. Mamash very, very low. They get like a 0 or almost a 0. When it comes to the peyot, when it comes to your peyot area, this whole area over here, you have to make sure that the least you could get is a number 2, maybe a number 1. In the machine, maybe a number 1, there's something to rely on. Number 1, right? What?
1.5. 1 is minimum.
It's a machloket between 1 and 2, right? It's a machloket between 1 and 2, right? 2 if you want to be yotze l'kuli alma, 1 you have what to rely on. 1.5 you're making pishirat, like taking the mezuzah, putting it slanted, right? 1.5 you make. So lemaaseh, you gotta be careful. I see some people, they don't know. They go to the barber shop and they chop everything off and they cut it off. You gotta be very careful. When you go to the barber shop, you cannot do. Not only do you make it, not only is it an issur d'oraita, it's an avirah d'oraita, but if the barber is Jewish, he's also an issur d'oraita.
Like over here, this area, can you do with the razor? Which parts?
Well, that's a little bit more complicated. Don't do anything with the razor on your face.
Nothing?
Nothing. Only do machine. Don't touch a razor.
You say like over here, not over here.
There's a very big machloket between the Rishonim. Which areas is considered the zakan and which area is not considered the zakan. It's very hard. Almost according to a lot of Rishonim, every single area is a different machloket. All the way on the bottom over here is allowed, right? But L'ma'aseh, the Shulchan Aruch says you have to be machmer like all the shitot because it's not clear in the halakha exactly which areas. There's so many different shitot.
What about these parts?
No, in the back too. In the back too.
And the back is okay.
Up to here.
That's okay. The back is okay.
Huh? What about these parts?
No, up to from here. No, you cannot do.
No, this right here. You make a shape up over here like this around.
Also, over here, not allowed. You have to, over here, you're not allowed. My barber, when he comes to do it for me, over here, he uses only the trimmer. He never uses a razor. He never uses a machine.
No, razor. What about the trimmer like this?
The trimmer, yeah, but not too deep. He only takes the extra here and he goes around. He doesn't put the trimmer against my skin and take it off.
No, the liner. You do with the liner.
Only pull down the hair and then do it like that. Don't put the liner on the skin.
Number one.
He doesn't do it. My barber already knows. Some barbers don't know. Scissor is okay. Scissor, you can almost never go so low. Even the machines that we use, you have to make sure that your machine is kosher. Some machines, they have like a lift cut. They cut mamash like a razor. You have to be careful with some machines. They cut mamash like a razor. You have to take your machine to the rabbi. He has to check how close your machine cuts to your skin. If it cuts too close to your skin, it's an issur d'oraita. Every single piyaz, every single makom zakan is an issur d'oraita. And not only that, a person that shaves with a razor, a halachah, it's asur for him to be chazan. And it's so brought down that Rav Ovadia one time saw a chazan that shaves, and he brought him down. He told him, "Gedan, and not allowed to be chazan." Right? It's
Because of what? Because of shame here?
It's issur d'oraita. Chazan that shaves with a razor, it's asur to be chazan. He's standing in front of Hashem davening. He has 5 million avirot on his face. It's not, every week shaving. Every week shaving. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40, 50 avirot. 100 avirot they can make a year. The oraita is just from shaving if the machine is not a kosher machine. And therefore, a person should make sure to check his machine to make sure that it's properly adjusted, that it doesn't have that thing it's called lift and cut, that it cuts too close to the skin. Right? That's in regards to shaving. And in regards to the payot, we already mentioned. Up to number 1, there's water line if you want to be meko. Now,
how about armpits? You can shave men or not?
Yes, no. With
Hello, Papa, let the rabbi answer.
a machine, yeah.
so the Shulchan Aruch says by armpits and by another male genital area, those two areas are the same. And he held that it's an Issur D'Rabbanan. However, the poskim write that if we live in a society that men do it as well, then it doesn't have an Issur of lo tilbash. Meaning to say, the Issur is to do it is because a woman does it. And a man is not allowed to do anything that a woman does. So the poskim write that today, since it's norm, and I looked it up, I wanted to know if it's really the norm. Since it's the norm for men to trim over there, right, therefore male to make it to trim, mutter to trim. Don't use a razor. But if you want to use a trimmer that cuts very close, better not to use the razor. Razor is more
What about the
common.
body?
The body is a little bit less of a problem. Body is okay.
You could do razor.
The body is less of a problem. You could most likely, if I remember correctly, you could do razor on the body. Laser is okay. Yeah. And the body is okay. The body is not so much of a problem. The armpits and the general areas are more common. What? Don't do it. Yeah. The truth is, I tell you the truth. It looks funny when you shave. I've seen somebody shave over there, but it looks funny.
I personally don't like it.
I hate hair. I cannot have armpits hair. I cannot have anything over here.
So everybody to themselves, you have to know. But Lamaisa, the halacha, if you want to do it, you could do it. Right, you could do. But under the armpits, try not to use the razor. Try to use just a machine. That will be okay. Right, that's okay also for men. Now, okay, let's go on to our topic over here. He brings over here Pitchei Tshuva. So I think, remember, we mentioned this case last week, but now we'll mention another case, right? He brings a Darchei Tshuva that brings a sefer called Sholem Eshiv, and he brings a case that happened, a real case that happened. Any other questions anybody has on any other topic before we continue?
Any question, guys?
No? Okay, let's go on. It says like this, Say I come to you, and I tell you, listen, I need to change. I have what is it called? Let's say I have dollars, right? And I want to change it for a different currency, right? And I tell you, listen, give me $10,000 in shekels, and I'll bring you $10,000 in cash, right? Bring you $10,000 in cash. I'm gonna bring it now. Just give it to me now. I'm gonna come back in 2-3 hours. I'm gonna bring it to you. I need the money right now. And the guy trusted you, and he gave you the money. What happens is, afterwards, everybody knows, I don't know if everybody knows, but the currency in Israel changes all the time. 307, 330, 329, 321, 322. It's unpredictable, right? Always changes, right? A lot of Sofrim now in Israel, they don't want to take dollars. They tell you, we want shekels, we don't care about dollars. Why? You're going to pay today, you're going to pay today $45,000 to Sefer Torah. Tomorrow in shekels, you're going to need to add another $1,000 because the change, $1,000 difference it can make, right? So they don't want. So say you gave me now $10,000 worth of shekels, right? And now I have to give you $10,000. Suddenly the rate changed, and now the $10,000 worth of shekels that I got from you are now really worth like $9,200, $9,300.
Yeah, but when you do the scam, that depends how you do the scam.
That's true. I owe you $10,000, right? But now what happens is I don't want to pay you. You're running after me. Hello, where's my money? Right? So I don't want to pay you. And what happens is you took me to court and you wanted your money. And the court, what did the court say? The court says not only do you have to pay the $10,000, but you also have to pay the 6%, right? The 6% interest, right? Like, which is according to the law. Say the law would be that you have to pay 6% interest as well. They penalized you, the court. That not only do I have to pay you $10,000, but now I have to also pay you 6% interest. I have to pay you $10,600. Right? That's how much I have to pay you. So the question is it considered over here, like when I took the shekels from you and I owe you $10,000, now does it become like a loan? That when the court tells me I have to pay $10,600 back, now I'm paying you interest, am I allowed to pay you that interest or not? So now the court made me pay you, but do I have to pay? Am I allowed to pay you according to halakha or not? He brings over here that this is not considered a loan at all. He says over here, this is not considered a loan at all. Why is this not considered a loan? He says this is considered being a thief, gezel, right? There's no ribbit by gezel, right? If I stole $20,000 from you and then you took me to court and the court made me pay back $25,000, there's no problem of ribbit. I could pay back the $25,000. No, why? Ribbit is only by a loan. This is not a loan. This is thievery. There's no ribbit by a thief. There's no ribbit when it comes to gezel. And therefore, if I stole money from you, and now you took me to court, and the court obligated me to pay you an extra $5,000 back, I have to pay that extra $5,000 back.
They make extra for what?
A penalty, a fine, interest. Interest, no. Even if they call it interest, not an interest, because you never lend me the money, I stole it from you. There's no isser of ribbis by gezel.
What's happened to this person if he do gezel? What happens to him?
What happens to him? He's gonna have to come back in the Gilgul and pay it back. Besides the fact
Because
that
of him, you have to come to the Gilgul also?
because he's a Russia. I don't know how exactly. I don't know if you have to come back in the Gilgul, but he's gonna have to pay you back, your children back, inheritance. There's some way that he's going to have to pay you back, right? There's some way he's gonna have to pay you back. I know that when people pass away, generally the children try to look to make sure that their parents don't owe anybody any money. And they try to go and pay everybody back in order for the parents not to have problems in Shemaim after 120. Right? The Chachamim say a person that borrows money and doesn't pay back, even if a person borrows money and he doesn't know how he's going to pay back, is considered Rasha.
Let me ask you, what if you borrowed money from your mom and dad and you never paid them back?
Do they care?
You don't know that they care.
I'm asking
You
you
don't
a
know what they
question.
think
I don't
inside
know.
their head.
That's
I
your,
don't think any parents care if they give...
that's your relationship between them.
It's any parent... Я не знаю, держать нет, but I think my personal opinion, if my children are going to take from me, I don't care. Anywhere when you die, anything is going to be to your children. So what's the big difference?
So that's already a personal question. I don't know. Halachically, I don't see it.
Maybe the parents want us to pay back more. You see the responsibility.
If a person doesn't know how
If a person doesn't have a source of where to pay back that amount and he borrows it anyways, it's considered Rashan.
he's working, assuming.
No, that's okay. But say a person is making, I don't know, $3,000 a month, right? And he wants to borrow $500,000. He knows in his mind that he's never going to be able to pay this back. He's relying on some sort of a miracle to happen.
But what if he does things that are beyond his nature?
What?
Things that Hashem is going to give him beyond his nature?
So don't borrow the money. Stay home and wait for Hashem to give it to you. Don't take from somebody else. You're taking somebody else's money that worked very hard. You have to make sure that you can give it back to him. It's not your money. The guy who worked for the money is helping you. Why are you taking it if you know you can't pay it back?
No, you're gonna pay it back, obviously. You're not, you know.
So you have to tell him, listen, Tzaddik, I'm borrowing $300,000 from you.
On interest?
I'm making $4,000 a month. I'm going to pay you back in 50 years. He's going to give it to you? How are you going to pay back so much money? I'm talking about no interest.
The question is different. Not about the money. Let's say you are a company. You
Yeah.
make a suit.
Yeah,
And your suit, Versace, let's say.
yeah.
And I'm copying your suit. Exactly like Versace. Is that allowed or not allowed? Or it's called stealing or not stealing?
It's very hard to say it's called stealing. It's called copyright. I'm not allowed to... It's illegally, you're not allowed. He could take you to court. Versace could take you to court.
I'm talking about Shemaim. How's that deal? Is it stealing or not stealing?
I don't know.
I make ring, let's say. Gold ring. Tiffany. And I go to Tiffany, buy this one, I make a copy and I sell it. Exactly like this. Is that allowed or not allowed?
That might be a little different. You're not calling it Tiffany. Jewelry is not subject to any particular design. People...
Yeah, my ring is Cartier, but it's Cartier.
That's a problem. If you're faking a watch completely with the name, that I would say is asur. I don't know,
But
but
the
I'll
customer
tell
doesn't
you.
mind paying for it. He knows that it's a replica, but
I understand what you're saying. There are very popular replicas today that are made very, very good. So he's asking me if it's mutar pi halacha. I don't know if it's mutar pi halacha. I don't think so.
Dutch did this to Ford. Two Jewish brothers, they came to Ford
Very good
and
question.
copied everything they opened the judge.
I don't know exactly what.
Sounds like a Jew.
I don't know whether something like that is mutar, but I know that it's illegal, and therefore, if the
I'm
person
not talking about legal, not legal. I'm talking
legal has a big play when it comes to chosh and mishpat. A lot of times when it comes to chosh and mishpat, when it comes to laws of money, they look at the law, and if it's illegal, it's halachically asur. A lot of times, legal and illegal have a very big play in regards to laws which are related to money. So I have to look into it whether or not something like that would be mutar. Now you're going to tell me the whole world does it. I know, but a lot of times people go to court. I remember there was a court case between even two companies that were making, what is that called? Baby wipes. One company made baby wipes, and he made a logo, a design, he wrote kosher for Shabbat, everything he made. Somebody else came, he took that same baby wipe, he made the same logos, the same colors, the same everything, he just changed the animal on it. The animal he changed. This guy worked 20 years building his reputation. This guy came, made a copy, and I come to the store, you think it's the same one. You don't know, you take the other one, right? I'm living off your advertisement. That's basically what it comes out to be, right? And people do that. If you go to the stores, you'll find a certain company that built a reputation on a certain product, and they have a certain image on their product. Another company built almost an identical image. It's very confusing sometimes, which one is which, right? Why do they do that? Because they know the customer is already used to just taking this one off the shelf just by how it looks. So this baby wipe company, they went to court. It was a Jewish guy. He took him, I forgot which company it was, right? He took him to court, and the guy who imitated the baby wipes lost the court case. And they told him that you have to stop your production, and not only that, you have to take everything off the shelves. Because we went to Beis Din also. The Beis Din also didn't allow it. It's usher to do. He had a copyright, whatever it might be, right? But Lama says such a thing. It's not for sure not the best thing to do. I'm sure you wouldn't like it if you invested so much money in your advertising, and you did so much to your product, and somebody came along and he made a replica and started living off your hard work. So simply, it's usher.
With cars, for example, they give you 2 years. After 2 years, you can copy.
So whatever the law is, if that's the law, that's the law. If they allow, they allow. There's nothing. If they allow it, then there's no shaila. If I allow you to copy me, there's no problem, right? So you see over here by gezel, right? It's okay to charge interest by gezel. So somebody stole money from you, and then the court would obligate him to pay a fine, a penalty, even though they would call it interest. That would be okay because by gezel there is no interest. Now, let's start with the next sugya. We'll just start with the sugya. We'll continue next week. If I took interest from you, say for example, I charged you 5% interest on a loan, and then now you owe me $50,000 in interest. Now, you paid me the $50,000 in interest. Say you paid me back $200,000, and you paid me $50,000 back in interest. Now, the $50,000 that I have in interest, you didn't know is asur. You went to a shir, the rabbi told you it's asur to pay interest, it's asur to take interest. It's a very chamor isra. You say, I didn't know, right? I thought it's okay. The rabbi tells you, no, it's not okay. You're allowed to take me to court, and api halacha, I'm obligated to pay you back the interest, the $50,000 that I took from you. Api halacha, I'm obligated to pay you back. I'm not allowed to tell you, no, I'm not paying you back. If I took interest from you, but isur, I have to pay you back that interest. I'm not allowed to keep that interest. Verstehst? That's only by interest the oraita, but by interest the rabbanan, we're going to differentiate as we go on. What's the difference between the oraita and the rabbanan? The interest the rabbanan, you're not allowed to take it back from me. You can't take it back from me. If I want to give it back, that's already a different shayla, right? You can't pay me the interest beforehand, but you can't take it back once you paid. By the oraita, you could take me to court and take it back from me, and I am obligated to pay you. However, there's an exception. If a guy, his whole life, his business was lending money on interest. Now he wants to do tshuva. He wants to become Baal Tshuva. There, if you're going to tell him to pay back all the money, he's not going to do tshuva, he's going to say, forget about it. The story like this in the Gemara. This one guy, he used to lend money to everybody in interest. He realized that he's not going to get up in Tichiyat HaMetim after 120 no olam haba for him. He said, you know what? He told his wife, I want to do tshuva. I want to pay back everybody that I took interest from. Right? His wife told him, what are you talking about? If you're going to become a Baal Tshuva, you're gonna be broke. You're not going to have no money, no nothing. He said, you know what, you're right, forget about it. I'm not going to do tshuva, I'm going to continue like this. Chamim saw this and they saw that people that lend money and interest, if you're going to tell them to do tshuva and they have to pay back the money, they're never going to do tshuva and they're never going to change. So Chamim made a takanaan that in a case scenario where all of a person's business was through ribis and then he decided to do tshuva and change, from there on he cannot take, but he doesn't have to pay everybody back whatever he took until then in order not to prevent him from doing tshuva. רבי חנניה בן הקשה מרצה הקדוש ברוך הוא צדקו לישראל פיקח בנם תורה מצוות שמע לאדון חפץ למען צדקו יגדיל תורה ויאדיר
יתגדל ויתקדש ברמה. ויצמח כנביא כרבי שחט. ויכונו ביום אחרון בחי לכל בית ישראל בנגלה ובזמן קריב